Hey everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity. I'm joined by Greg, also of Hail Varsity, and we are here in Memorial Stadium. I just finished up the second true National Signing Day press conference with Coach Scott Frost. Just heard from Frost today, and we're just going to recap a little bit of it. I'm going to ask Greg a couple of quick questions because today did have some excitement, a little bit. So first and foremost, he did provide some updates on player injuries, different things heading into spring football. If you are curious about more of that specifically, because we're going to focus on recruiting, you can go watch his full video right now. It's already uploaded. It is live here on our YouTube channel. Go check that out. We'll also have more at hailvarsity.com, which you can go, check out, get all the latest on what you need to know for the football team heading into spring football. But let's just stay on recruiting for today, Greg. Nebraska did have two exciting gets today, a running back and a wide receiver. Can we talk a little bit about those two?
Yes, we can. A.J. Allen was the running back. He's a three-star running back out of Louisiana. He was previously committed to TCU, where Brian Applewhite, Nebraska's new running backs coach, was the previous running backs coach. And so they had already had a previous connection. A.J. Allen came up to Nebraska for an official visit a couple of weeks ago, the first visit weekend in January. Ended up really liking it. Nebraska sent the full group down to his house to do an in-home visit that included Scott Frost, Mickey Joseph, and the aforementioned Applewhite to kind of seal the deal. And then he'll be coming to Nebraska this summer. The other one, addition for the day, was more of a surprise. I think that we saw A.J. Allen coming just because of, the previous connection. But Janirin Bonner, who is a four-star wide receiver out of Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, had previously been committed to Georgia Tech, I think for 10 months he had been committed to them, and did not sign with them in December, obviously. And once that happens and a prospect doesn't sign in December, kind of all bets are off at that point, right? And so he actually pulled something off that's very rare nowadays, and he took a double super secret official visit to Nebraska this past weekend. No one knew. His name surfaced, I think, Monday as someone who was potentially on Nebraska's radar, and he ended up picking Nebraska earlier today. He's about 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds, more of a bigger-bodied receiver, which kind of fits the mold of what Nebraska has been doing and adding to that wide receiver room here in the last couple of cycles.
It's really interesting because we've talked obviously a lot about this in previous videos that we've recorded here for for our Hail Varsity channel about, the traditional signing day in February now is a little bit a lackluster in the big scheme of things. And Frost did talk about that. He said, it doesn't really matter what he thinks about the traditional signing day versus the early signing period anymore. It's not going back. It's not changing. This is what it is now. Yes. But, you do get surprises every so often, like Nebraska got today. It's not going to be something that happens every year. It's not going to happen for every school, but every so often, somebody who doesn't end up signing in December for whatever reason will end up coming to a different campus, getting a different experience, feeling good about it, and then there you go. You find out really last minute, here, they're adding somebody new. The one thing I want to just say really quick and get your thoughts on is obviously with Brian Applewhite getting a running back, Mickey Joseph getting a wide receiver. Both of those rooms feel like they've added quite a bit of talent through this class, and especially when we talked a few months ago, there was a lot of concern about what talent they might be adding to these two groups.
Yeah, I think wide receiver now, I think, has had 5 additions this offseason, 3 high school players and 2 transfers. Running back is now up to 7 scholarship running backs in the group, which is a lot. That is a group that the position group is very full at this point. And so one of the themes that Scott Frost mentioned today, I feel like over and over again, and it's true, is competition, right? And I think that those two positions and defensive back in general are going to have a lot of competition this spring and really maybe into fall camp.
Now, you did ask about defensive backs. So what was your takeaway on that, on the defensive back position in this recruiting class?
Yeah, I did, because it's been really interesting to see that Nebraska, they lost 3 guys that started from their group last year, but they returned Miles Farmer, somebody who played a lot, and obviously Quentin Newsom, who started last year, but they brought in a number of defensive backs over this offseason, both transfers, high school additions, JUCO additions, you name it, like that. They've brought someone here from that avenue. So increasing the competition in that room, both at safety and at cornerback, giving themselves an opportunity to have a lot of position flexibility, I think has been important. And I think buzzword of the offseason, special teams, will be impacted by that.
And one thing too is Nebraska is currently over on scholarships. So there has to be competition, because there will have to inevitably be some level of attrition.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it is what it is. You are over on quarterbacks. You're over on scholarships. My brain just went to quarterbacks. It's because he was asked about quarterbacks specifically, Frost talked about how it's the best man, may the best man win when it comes to the competition. So it kind of feels like that's going to be the case for every position group. May the best player win.
Yeah, and that should make practice very intense and make everyone really focused, because there's not very many spots where people should be comfortable about having, a carved out role going into this season.
And Frost also made mention of the fact that he is completely open to still keeping an eye on the transfer portal. They're looking at having somebody full-time dedicated to just keeping an eye on the transfer portal. And so it seems like even if you are a player on this roster right now, you're not just competing for your spot against players that right now. You could be competing for that spot and playing time against somebody who's not even yet on this team, because they're just keeping an eye on that transfer portal.
Yeah, and that to me was fascinating, that mention of potentially hiring someone just to keep an eye on that. And I think that he made mention that a couple of spots were offensive and defensive line to keep an eye out for. I think Nebraska still needs to continue to get their numbers up in those spots.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch. It definitely was aside from the flip of a commitment and some extra excitement, overall it was a pretty quiet signing day for Nebraska. And now the work begins. Nebraska's trucking through winter conditioning. Spring football will kick off at the end of this month, and it will be full steam ahead. We'll have a better idea of what we're going to get with this roster and this team very soon. And if you want more on today or any recruiting updates, especially as we start to shift now already to 2023 and beyond, Greg will have you covered at hailvarsity.com, so be sure to go and bookmark hailvarsity.com. Subscribe to this channel. We'll have more. We appreciate you as always for tuning in. Greg, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.